Have you ever noticed how sometimes, no matter what you say or do, she seems just out of reach, like there's an invisible wall between what you feel and what she feels? That subtle tension, that quiet distance, isn't random. It's not that she's intentionally ignoring you or that you're doing something wrong. There's a deeper, unspoken language happening beneath every glance, every word, every pause. And understanding that language can change everything. You see, women don't operate purely on logic, at least not when it comes to attraction and connection. Their emotions are more than just feelings. They're signals, intricate and layered, guiding them toward or away from someone on a level that's often invisible. And the truth most men never realize is that trying to make someone feel something by force, by persuasion, or even by over-explaining usually pushes the exact opposite outcome. You can be the funniest, the smartest, the most generous man in the room, but if you don't understand how her mind is processing your presence, none of that matters. Now, I want you to pause for a moment and think about the last time a woman didn't respond the way you expected. Maybe she seemed distant when you tried to connect. Maybe she smiled, but it didn't feel warm. Or maybe she agreed with everything you said, yet there was a part of her you couldn't reach. Most men interpret that as rejection. That's the surface level. What's really happening is far more subtle. She's not rejecting you. She's reading you, assessing not just your words, but your energy, your confidence, and your ability to evoke a sense of security and intrigue all at once. Here's what's fascinating. Her mind can feel far more than she expresses, and when you grasp the psychology behind it, you begin to realize that connection isn't about what you say. It's about what you make her feel. A single gesture, a carefully measured pause, even the way you look at her, can communicate more than pages of conversation. Women are wired to respond to consistency, authenticity, and emotional depth, not to rehearsed lines or strategies. They notice subtleties, the way you hold your ground, how you handle a challenge, even the quiet confidence in your silence. And that's where most men fail. They focus on being seen rather than being felt. This isn't manipulation, it's not trickery, it's understanding. The most powerful influence a man can have isn't in persuading her with words, it's in embodying a presence that naturally draws her in, sparks curiosity, and allows her to feel a connection she can't rationalize but can't ignore. And while it may feel subtle at first, these nuances build momentum. The small choices you make, the calm you carry, the energy you project, these are what shape her experience of you long before you ever say, "I like you," or "I want you to feel this way." Later in this conversation, I'm going to reveal a psychological pattern most men completely miss, a dynamic that, when understood, shifts the way she experiences you almost instantly. But for now, just notice this. Everything you've been taught about attraction, about winning her over, is missing the point. Women respond to emotion, to depth, to presence, not to performance. And the better you understand that, the more control you gain, not over her, but over how genuinely connected she can feel with you. Before we go deeper, take a moment to think about this. When was the last time you consciously focused on how she feels rather than what she says? That difference is the key, and it's what separates fleeting encounters from magnetic, unforgettable connections. And if you want to stay on this journey, hit like and subscribe. It helps me bring you more insights that go beyond the surface, straight into the psychology most men never get taught. Let's take a step deeper. To truly influence how a woman feels, you need to understand one fundamental truth about human psychology. Emotions are contagious, not in the way you might think. She won't just catch your mood like a cold, but she will respond to the energy you consistently project. Confidence that is quiet, grounded, and self-assured creates comfort. Calmness in moments of tension creates curiosity. And curiosity is one of the most powerful forces in attraction. Most men believe attraction is built on charm, humor, or physical appearance. And yes, those things matter, but only superficially. The deeper connection, the kind that lingers in her mind long after you leave the room, comes from how you make her feel safe to experience emotion around you. When she can feel tension, excitement, even a touch of vulnerability in a controlled, grounded way, she starts associating you with an emotional richness that is rare and magnetic. And that's not something you force. It's something you allow by being fully present and aware of your own inner state. Here's an important point many men overlook. Women are incredibly intuitive about intent. They don't just hear your words, they sense your underlying emotional agenda. If you're trying to impress, trying to convince, trying too hard to be liked, she feels it. That effort triggers resistance, not attraction. But if you focus on your own centered energy, if you speak calmly, maintain your composure, and show genuine interest without needing an immediate outcome, she begins to feel a natural pull. It's subtle, often invisible, but powerful. She experiences a sense of emotional resonance, the kind that makes her want to linger, engage, and share more of herself. Now notice how this isn't about tricks or manipulation. It's about emotional alignment. Women respond to patterns of energy over time. A single moment of intensity or calm can spark interest, but consistent emotional presence creates deeper feelings. If she senses stability and authenticity, she's more willing to let her guard down. And when she lets her guard down, she can truly feel, and that's when your influence shifts from superficial to profound. Another key piece is unpredictability, but not chaos. It's the subtle, calculated unpredictability of emotional presence. Moments where you surprise her, not with words, but with your calmness, your focus, your ability to navigate the moment differently than expected. These micro patterns trigger her curiosity and keep her emotionally engaged. She begins to feel something she can't quite put into words, something that feels alive and exciting. And the irony is, the less you over-explain, the stronger the impact. Presence outweighs explanation every time. Finally, let's recognize a subtle paradox. The more emotionally intelligent you become, the less you try to make her feel something, and the more naturally it happens. Attraction isn't manufactured, it's evoked. By understanding her psychological cues, staying grounded in your own energy, and allowing emotions to flow in an authentic, measured way, you create an environment where she can feel deeply, even without consciously realizing it. And here's the thought to carry forward. Connection is built moment by moment, feeling by feeling. Each pause, each gesture, each calm reaction is like adding layers to a painting she can't stop noticing. Over time, those layers create a picture of you that's not just attractive, it's unforgettable. If this is resonating, make sure to like and subscribe. These insights are rare, and each one builds on the last to give you the tools to truly understand female psychology. Now that we've explored how emotional presence works, let's focus on a dynamic that most men completely miss. Something I call the subtle push-pull of perception and intrigue. Women are constantly evaluating, not just consciously, but on a deep, instinctive level. They're noticing how you respond under pressure, how you handle attention, and whether your energy is consistent or reactive. Every interaction, no matter how small, becomes part of the story she tells herself about you. And the key is that you don't have to say anything extraordinary to influence that story. Your energy does the talking. Think about this. If a woman senses that you are emotionally independent, secure in yourself, unshaken by small provocations, and not constantly seeking approval, her brain starts to categorize you differently. She begins to associate you with stability, confidence, and emotional depth. And here's the subtle truth. That sense of security is deeply attractive because it signals that you are capable of holding space for her emotions without being overwhelmed. You're not trying to impress, you're simply being steady. That steadiness alone often evokes feelings of curiosity and closeness faster than words ever could. Now, let's talk about the power of subtle absence. This is counterintuitive, but crucial. If you are always available, always responding, always pursuing, her mind can begin to take your presence for granted. It doesn't mean you disappear or act cold. It means you maintain a life, passions, and priorities outside of her attention. That creates tension in the most positive way. She notices when you are fully engaged in the world, when you are moving forward, and that movement draws her in because it signals that your emotional world is abundant and independent. Women are naturally drawn to men whose value is evident without needing constant validation. At the same time, balance is essential. Too much distance or unpredictability can create confusion or frustration rather than attraction. The secret is subtlety, small pauses in communication, thoughtful delays, or moments where you don't immediately respond to every impulse. These are not games, they are demonstrations of emotional sovereignty. They allow her to feel a spectrum of emotion toward you: curiosity, intrigue, and eventually, attachment to the feelings you consistently evoke. She begins to notice your presence more than your words. Another layer to understand is emotional mirroring. Women subconsciously reflect the energy you project. If you're calm, composed, and confident, she starts to mirror that state, feeling more secure and open in your presence. If you are anxious, reactive, or desperate, she senses that too, and it triggers tension rather than connection. Emotional mirroring isn't manipulation. It's simply the natural chemistry of human interaction. The more you cultivate a grounded inner state, the more her feelings align with that energy. So consider this: every gesture, pause, and reaction builds an unspoken narrative in her mind. That narrative shapes her emotional experience with you far more than your words ever could. If you master these subtle dynamics, you begin to create a connection where she feels drawn to you, not because of what you say, but because of how you make her feel on a subconscious level. And remember, understanding this doesn't just improve attraction, it improves how you carry yourself in every interaction, creating a sense of calm, magnetic presence that women naturally respond to. If this insight is hitting home, make sure to like and subscribe. These principles are the foundation for building real, lasting psychological influence, not tricks or games. Now, let's move into something practical, but still deeply psychological. I want you to understand a principle that most men overlook. Women respond to emotionally charged contrasts. Not chaos, not manipulation, but subtle shifts that highlight your depth, stability, and presence. Imagine two moments: one where you're fully engaged, laughing, focused on her words; another where you calmly step back, attentive but not reactive. That contrast, the ebb and flow of your presence, triggers curiosity and emotional engagement. It's not about games, it's about creating a space where she can feel a range of emotion, safely and unconsciously linked to you. Think about why this works. The human mind is wired to notice variation, especially in emotional signals. If you're predictable in the extreme, always reactive, always available, always seeking approval, her subconscious stops paying attention. But subtle variations in your energy, a calm pause, a thoughtful question, a small gesture that shows awareness without overexertion, these are what capture her attention and stimulate emotion. She feels it, even if she can't articulate why. Another principle to recognize is the importance of emotional resonance. Women don't just want a conversation, they want to feel understood and reflected. That doesn't mean agreeing with everything she says. It means listening actively, acknowledging her perspective, and responding in a way that shows you are attuned without being consumed. This creates a rare combination of attraction and comfort. She begins to associate you with a sense of emotional safety that isn't dependent on her manipulating your reactions. And once that association is formed, she starts to open up and feel more intensely around you. Here's a subtle but powerful tactic: timing. Not just in conversation, but in emotional expression. When you share your feelings or reactions, do it in a measured way. Don't flood her with intensity all at once. Instead, layer it gradually, letting her experience a controlled crescendo of curiosity, intrigue, and emotional engagement. It's like walking into a room and noticing a faint fragrance. The longer she experiences it without trying to analyze, the more it lodges in her subconscious. By the time she's fully aware of her feelings, the connection is already there. Now, notice the balance required: presence without attachment. Women are attuned to whether you are emotionally dependent or sovereign. If she senses desperation, overeagerness, or neediness, it triggers resistance rather than attraction. But if you can create moments of emotional intensity while remaining grounded and independent, she experiences those feelings as safe, exciting, and irresistible. The paradox is simple. The less you force the emotion, the stronger it becomes. She begins to feel without questioning, and that is the essence of influence through female psychology. Finally, understand this. Subtlety is your ally. Women respond most powerfully to the unspoken, the glance, the pause, the quiet acknowledgement of her emotional world. These micro-interactions accumulate, creating a tapestry of feeling that is deeply compelling. The stronger your internal control, the more effectively you evoke these responses, and the more naturally she experiences the emotions you wish to inspire. If these insights are starting to make sense, like and subscribe. Every principle builds on the last, giving you a rare understanding of how connection, emotion, and psychology intertwine. Now let's get more specific. There are certain emotional triggers that, when understood and subtly reflected, can profoundly influence how a woman feels around you. These aren't tricks or manipulations. They're natural human responses that arise when her subconscious perceives stability, intrigue, and emotional alignment in your presence. Understanding these triggers allows you to guide connection without forcing it, letting her feelings unfold naturally. The first trigger is security through calm confidence. Women are wired to notice emotional steadiness. If you remain composed during uncertainty, small conflicts, or even light teasing, she perceives strength. This doesn't mean rigidity, it means self-control and awareness. She begins to associate you with safety, an emotional anchor in her world. And that sense of security allows her to feel more freely, more deeply, without the usual filters of caution or doubt. The second trigger is mystery paired with authenticity. You don't have to reveal everything at once. Small glimpses into your thoughts, passions, or experiences create intrigue. She senses that there is more to discover, and her curiosity draws her in. The key is authenticity. Never fabricate or exaggerate. Women detect dishonesty effortlessly. The combination of depth and subtle restraint invites her mind to engage emotionally, imagining who you are beyond what she sees. This mental investment heightens her feelings of connection and attraction. The third is emotional mirroring and pacing. Humans naturally mirror the emotions of those around them, especially in intimate or meaningful interactions. If you are calm and confident, she mirrors that state, feeling composed yet engaged. If you are expressive in measured ways, laughing, showing mild frustration, or being thoughtful, she unconsciously syncs with your rhythm. Timing matters here. Mirror too quickly or too intensely, and it feels unnatural. Mirror subtly, and her emotional alignment with you grows organically. Fourth, consider selective challenge. Women are attracted to men who are not just agreeable, but who inspire thought and reflection. Light intellectual challenges, playful debates, or calmly holding your perspective invite her to engage more deeply. This isn't arguing for the sake of conflict. It's demonstrating that your mind is active, independent, and confident. She begins to feel tension, intrigue, and stimulation, all of which heighten emotional response. Finally, presence through listening and acknowledgement. This is often underestimated. Truly attentive listening, without the urge to respond immediately or dominate the conversation, communicates that her thoughts and feelings matter. When you acknowledge and reflect her emotions without judgment, she feels deeply seen. That feeling of being understood fosters trust and intensifies her emotional experience, creating a connection that feels rare, meaningful, and magnetic. All of these triggers work best in combination, not isolation. Calm confidence, authentic mystery, subtle mirroring, selective challenge, and deep acknowledgement together create an environment where she can feel freely, safely, and strongly. She may not consciously identify what draws her to you, but she feels it, and that feeling sticks far longer than any clever words or gestures ever could. If this is resonating, make sure to like and subscribe. These insights are rare and form the foundation of emotional influence that feels natural, powerful, and lasting. Now that you understand the emotional triggers, the next step is learning how to sustain and deepen the connection over time. Evoking feeling once is one thing, but maintaining it consistently, naturally, without pressure, is where true mastery lies. Women respond not just to isolated moments, but to patterns, the energy you consistently bring into her world. That consistency shapes her emotional experience far more than any single conversation ever could. The first principle is emotional consistency. She doesn't need perfection, she needs reliability. Showing up with calm presence, confident energy, and genuine interest repeatedly signals stability. When she senses that your composure and attention aren't fleeting, she begins to feel safe and free to invest emotionally. Emotional depth grows in the space of trust, and trust is built quietly, moment by moment. Next is controlled intensity. Attraction isn't about constant highs, it's about balance. Emotional peaks, like thoughtful insight, humor, or mild tension, stand out because they're measured against calm, grounded presence. This rhythm, the push and pull of emotional engagement, naturally deepens her interest and keeps her emotionally involved without feeling forced. Attentive responsiveness is also crucial. Listen actively, acknowledge her feelings, and respond thoughtfully, but avoid overextending yourself to control her emotions. Emotional sovereignty, your ability to hold space without needing to manage hers, heightens attraction subtly. Pair that with small demonstrations of growth, resilience, and calm problem solving, and she begins to perceive you as capable, confident, and intriguing. Finally, understand the power of reflection. Women anchor feelings through repeated, meaningful experiences. Every calm gesture, subtle challenge, or authentic expression accumulates in her subconscious, creating attachment and fascination. Connection is built, not invented. Your presence becomes the catalyst, and her feelings grow naturally around it. Here's the ultimate insight most men never realize. She isn't drawn to what you say or do. She's drawn to the emotional experience of being around you. Stability, intrigue, authenticity, subtle challenge, and resonance create an environment where she can feel deeply and freely. You don't force it, you facilitate it. The more grounded and consistent you are, the more her emotions align with your energy. So remember, focus on your presence, your authenticity, and your calm confidence. Create contrast, intrigue, and subtle resonance. Allow her to feel, don't chase it. The combination of these principles builds not just attraction, but deep, lasting connection, effortless, magnetic, and unforgettable. If these insights have resonated, like and subscribe. Understanding this psychology gives you the rare ability to influence connection naturally, without games or manipulation.